Y'all, all right. I'm gonna try to do this one real quick. Speed, speed, abrupt, direct. The title: Don't take it personal and stop being defensive. Don't take it personal and stop being defensive. What I've noticed in my life is people use that as an offensive communication. The same people that are telling you to not be defensive, they're on offense. Generally, people say that when they're trying to take advantage of you or manipulate you, and you don't fall for it. In my instances, because I don't really have the issue of taking things personal or being defensive. The issue I have is people not wanting to be held accountable for their actions. People not wanting to be held accountable for their words. That's when I notice people start talking about don't take it personal or don't be so defensive. And I also notice in the world that people treat other people like that. I sit and just observe how people treat other people, and it helps me understand why I get treated the way I get treated, because that's just how people are out here treating each other. But I want to tell you, no one has the right to hurt you, mistreat you, and then have the rectifying or aftermath of your relationship go the way they want it to go. No one has that right. And you got to look at the things that people fall for in this world. Man, Satan clever. Satan got people out here like, there's people like 45 years old, right? And they dated 20 years ago. And one of them just broke the other person's heart so bad. Whatever the situation was, but you know how life is. Something catastrophic happened where they just, one of them said, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm done with it. And all of these years later, the person who did the hurting, they'll never come out and come clean about what they did. And if they do come clean, it'll just be some rhetoric and dialogue. But their actions won't correspond with that. Y'all know what I'm saying. When people mistreat you, do you wrong, hurt you, and they come back and speak on it, but they're just speaking on it. In essence, what they're saying is, hey, can you get over and forget about how I screwed you over so that you can let your defenses down? And I do it again. Let me repeat that. Hey, I know 3 years ago this happened between us, but man, you need to get over it. And I need you to get over it because you're being too defensive. And I can't do it to you again if you're being so defensive. Like, you're making this hard for me, bro. I'm trying to screw you over, I'm trying to manipulate you from the same angle or maybe a different angle. And I can't because you're being defensive. Could you stop defending yourself from my bullshit? Check this out. I'm seeing this now. It's crazy. It's funny. So I go back to the town, where I graduated from high school. Man, this is like 20 something years later. And I see people that I went to high school with, out and about doing whatever they're doing. Some of them married, some of them ain't, whatever they're doing. So there's some girls in particular that look very nice now. They look very attractive. And that wasn't the popular consensus on them 20 years ago. And I happen to remember how, what the opinion was on, this woman was back then. And I know who had the opinions. And it's so funny, and I just start seeing things. It's like I'll see stuff like this is what I see. So I don't know. My whole life, I've always had this concept that you should not care what interests or is attractive to another person. Like that's just a display of insecurity in yourself. If you've got to judge another person's wife, judge another person's boyfriend, judge the quality of people someone else dates, there's something wrong with you. That's past hating. Hating is just like, oh, she ugly, and or whatever. Like you like, maybe you just a hater. You don't like the girl, so she ugly. But the fact that you even care enough to put your mouth on it, that says something about you. It says something more about you than it does about the girl and the guy you talking about dating her. Like there's something going on with you. But they didn't get that back then. And I know a lot of them was just going along with the crowd. See, people don't have a right to do that to you either. See, a lot of these guys, and I guess sometimes women do it too. Women are just as scummy. But I'm only talking about guys because in this incident, that's the I know for a fact with this one. Some of those guys were the type that would be in a group, and if a couple of them was bashing the girl, they would all join in and start bashing her. But then the next weekend, or even later that night, I'd be at a different party, and they clicked and separated a little bit, and these people got a total different energy. The person's name will get brought up later on in the night in a different setting, and their whole energy is different. Now they're in a setting where people like this person or they admire this person. So now it's like, oh yeah, oh yeah. But earlier they were around people that hated them, and they was like, oh yeah, man, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's crazy. And I would just sit here and be like, hey, wait a minute. And you know what's so funny? I don't think she forgot that either. Now, here's where taking it personal and defensive. This is where the thin-skinned, snowflake, offensive people throw out these type of phrases. So, she didn't take it personal or defensive, because I feel like if she took it personal or defensive, she would have beeline to those guys and like cussed them out or had some type of animosity or hostility towards them. No. What happened was she was kind of, doing her thing, chilling with the people that she was, interacting with. And then here come these guys who 15 years ago was just dragging her through the mud and essentially bullying her because she wasn't as developed. Like her breasts hadn't gotten big yet and her butt hadn't gotten big. So they used to it's stupid how they used to talk about her. Well, now all of that stuff is caught up. All of that stuff is developed very nicely now. So here come these same guys trying to get up on her and get fresh with her. And she is respectfully turning them down. She's just respectfully like, now if you don't know what's going on, you would just think, oh, she's not interested. But see, me, I'm sitting here looking at this and it's interesting to me. Because, yeah, maybe she's just genuinely not interested. But I would be a fool to suspend all of the substance that might be involved in why she's not interested. And it's simple to me. Like, oh, 15 years later, she looks hot, and all of these guys in here are kind of gawking over her. So the dudes that was picking on her and making her run to the bathroom crying 15 years ago, now they want to follow suit and pretend that that stuff didn't happen and go over there and try to holler at her and dance with her and be all cool with her and stuff. And she would just kind of not entertain it. And you know what these guys did? And it doesn't shock me, the ones who did it, but they kind of snapped on her. And they was trying to play the whole, don't be defensive, don't take it personal. In the very moment of them being defensive and taking stuff personal, it's profound when you watch these people. It's interesting. She didn't want to dance with him, and then he got to the point of like, you ain't all that. Like, you think you can't even dance with nobody, or now mind you, she danced with other people. She just didn't dance with them. And it's like they're being defensive about what the reality of the situation is. And people are just so scummy that they actually go and try to pull that off. And then one of them even, and she's not even really defending herself or trying to explain herself because she really doesn't have to. See, that's the other thing people be doing when they accuse you of being defensive or taking things personal. What they're really doing is they're trying to throw an astute temper tantrum. Pay attention to people when they accuse you of taking things personal and being defensive. They're throwing an astute temper tantrum. And they're just trying to be holier than thou about it. But really what they're doing is and one of the guys basically was like, man, damn, you still caught on like high school and shit? Like, we ain't in high school no more, man. Like, you know, we're like grown, you know, that was like 15 years ago. Like, you still like tripping about stuff from in high school? And when they do that, that lets you know. See, that's the, in essence, what they're saying then is, hey, man, you're not trying to hold me accountable for the ways that I've treated you, are you? That's really what they're saying. It's like, hey, wait, you wouldn't happen to be holding me accountable for how I treated you 15 years ago, right? Because in my mind, I'm not emotionally or psychologically mature enough to understand how that works. But I am narcissistic and thin-skinned and entitled enough to feel that you should just overlook that and give me what I want from you right now and dance with me or talk with me or act like we cooler than we actually are. That's what I want right now. Oh, and I know how I treated you, and I know it was wrong, but I don't have the courage or fortitude to speak on that first and try to bring some closure to that chapter. No, I can't do that. I'm gonna just pretend like we in a total new book. Like, since it's 15 years later, there's no notes from back then. It's just a total new book. And it's like you acting like you don't want to read my book. Why you don't want to read my? You think you're too good to read my book? So, and also, what they start doing is they start projecting onto you the same energy that they know they projected on you back then. So now they kind of come at you like, oh man, you think you all that? You caught up on the past? You haven't moved forward from that yet? But the reality is, they haven't moved forward from it yet. Because the way you move forward from things is you speak on things. You address the issue. What they're really saying is that they think you're all that right now. And they didn't think you were all that back then. but they pride and their ego and their narcissism won't let them say it like that. It won't let them say, man, you all that. And I really can't handle the rejection that I'm receiving from you right now. And what's really eating me up inside is I know that this rejection, you know what's even funnier? I've seen this happen several times. It's so crazy. I've actually seen women do this to men too, but it's a little different. It's not necessarily like maybe she wasn't as attractive back then and now she is. With men, it's more like maybe he was broke back then, but he's not now. And the women that was coming at him like he was broke, and like, you know, there's some stuff people do that's just outlandish. Like, okay, if a person's struggling, they're struggling. If a person's not financially stable, they ain't financially stable. But some of y'all know what the hell y'all be doing. Y'all be dragging people's names through the mud. Y'all be basking in other people's misfortune. Y'all be wishing bad on them. And when that person overcomes those things, they haven't forgot how you treated them. And instead of having like some type of dignity or a positive sense of pride and going back and apologizing or trying to make amends for how you treated that person and talked about them, no, they just pop back up 15, 10 years later and try to hook up with you and have a whole completely different energy. Like, you supposed to just go along with it. Don't let people mentally abuse you like that. That's mental abuse. I'm going to call that out right now. A lot of these people out here talking about don't take it personal and you're being defensive. These people are into mental abuse. They're into psychological manipulation. No, she don't want to talk to you now. No, he don't want to hook up with you now. And it ain't because he's taking it personal or being defensive. And actually, you know what? That's another angle. Yeah, he is being defensive. Yeah, he is taking it personal. Like, those words get thrown around like it's crazy. People will accuse you of being defensive and taking things personal when they know that they're being offensive and attacking something about your character or your person. Pay attention when people do that, especially when you know good and well that there's history prior to it. It's crazy. Like, this man can't defend himself from you basically being a gold digger. Like, this girl can't defend herself from basically you being um you just wanted to be a sleazy, like, kind of slutty, or at least you're just being a coward and a punk. Because like I said, going back, I can look, I know how some of these women felt about this man, but they didn't let that show because they wanted to listen to everybody else's opinion. And the guy saw that. You know, maybe I, you know, maybe it's a friend, or maybe you could just observe it, or you just hear about it. Like I said, I was at the party and this couple broke up, and one of them did the other one really bad. It's like, in my mind, the only way that moves forward is for those two people to talk, and the person who did the primary hurting lay that on the table and accept accountability for it, and then you can move forward. But if you just gonna come like that didn't happen, then yeah, that person has a right to defend themselves. They have a right to defend themselves from the fact that you've given them no indication that you won't do the same thing again. You've given them no indication that you aren't in the process of doing the same thing again. And as far as taking it personal, like you, like a lot of y'all are just like dumbfounded when it comes to words. Personal is a suffix to the word person. So you all need to think about when you're using the word person. If you're the person who did this to that person, that's where taking it personal comes into place. Like, what do you all think the word personal means? See, you all think the word personal means an attack on character. And actually, when you all use the phrase don't take it personal, I found that you all are actually taking shit personal in that moment. Like I said, you're having a, yeah,